Good. Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order, October 21st, 2025. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, good morning, everyone. Having a little bit of connectivity issues this morning, so we apologize for that. Commissioners, we do have a quorum present today with all 5 commissioners in attendance. If you've had a chance to review the agenda and there are no changes, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
A motion by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Toman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. First up under tab A this morning, we've got 2 public hearings for the Planning and Zoning Department. Item number 1 is Resolution 25-10-ZO-01, a zoning map amendment from light industrial I1 to rural residential RR in accordance with the amendment procedures found in Section 20 of the 2015 zoning resolution. Joining us this morning is County Planner Cassidy Brown. Good morning, Cassidy.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So our applicant today is Adonis Upadon and Eliza Frias. They own a tract of land that's approximately 25.7 acres in the northeast quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 23, Township 25, Range 106 West, which is has the address 186 Highway 28 in Rock Springs. And the current zoning is light industrial. The existing infrastructure on the property is Farson Eden Fire Response Area, Eden Farson Districts, Water and Sewer, and then US Highway 28. And basically what they're looking to do for this application here is that they're wanting to have residential use of this property. With the way that it's zoned currently, residential, or you can only have a residence on the property as an accessory use, but they are not wanting to use it as industrial zoning anymore. They're not wanting to run a business out of there. They just want to live there. So they would like to change the zoning to rural residential zoning instead of light industrial. Here you can see the zoning map, and you'll see that this property is surrounded by agricultural zoning, as well as there's an adjacent property that's also zoned for rural residential use. And then we've got our site photos that we took along with our public notice posting for this hearing. And that brings us to the review criteria for a zone map amendment. And the first is that the amendment is consistent and compatible with the current resolution and comprehensive plan. And staff does find that it encourages growth and development to continue in an orderly manner and in locations that contribute to the economic and social well-being of county residents. The proposed zoning is also compatible with the existing topography. Our third criteria is that the proposed zoning is compatible with existing or allowable uses of adjacent properties and neighboring zoning districts. And again, this parcel is surrounded by other agricultural zone districts as well as rural residential. And so the proposed use of the property would be compatible with the current existing uses of the adjacent properties. There are also adequate public facilities already located on the existing property. And, if anything else is needed when we go through, if they look to build a home or something in the future, that can also be further addressed through the construction permit process. Fifth criteria is that the amendment should not adversely affect adjacent properties, and we don't see any adverse effect for the adjacent properties. And 6, the request conforms to all applicable provisions of this resolution, and it does. We did open this up, as always, to public and agency for comments. We received a few back. So first, Darren Kaufman with YDOT stated that YDOT has no objections to change for this zone change from industrial to residential. Mark Berry with Lumen also said no conflict. And Melissa Leber stated this property has no AML concerns with regard to abandoned historic mines. And at the October 8th, 2025 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the P&Z Commission voted 4-0 to recommend approval of resolution 25-10-ZO-01 for a zone map amendment from light industrial to rural residential as requested by the applicant, and the applicant is here in person as well today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Cassie. Appreciate it. Any questions on the proposed zoning map amendment, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Tillman.
I believe the address is Farson, Wyoming, not Rock Springs. Right? Highway
That's-
28
yep.
East is Farson, not Rock Springs.
Commissioner Tillman, yes, that would be correct. My apologies on that one.
Very good. Any other questions or comments for staff? Any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, we do need to open this up for public hearings. So at this time, if there's anyone online or in the audience who would like to speak to this zoning map amendment, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Tillman.
I would move to approve this ZMA 1-1 to RR rural residential.
You have a motion to approve resolution 25-10-ZO-01 by Commissioner Tillman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Slaughter. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Next item under tab A this morning is item number 2, the notice of intent for a language amendment to the 2015 Sweetwater County zoning resolution conditional use permit for solar energy facility, section 17, wind energy conversion systems, and section 21 definitions. Joining us this morning is Land Use Director Eric Bingham. Good morning, Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But I'm sure John would appreciate that. I keep grabbing his glasses instead of mine, so. Okay, so what we have today is a language amendment to our zoning resolution in the conditional use permit section of solar energy facilities and also wind energy conversion systems. And we also add another definition. So purpose of this language amendment is to address wildlife consistency issues between the regulations between solar energy and wind energy conversion systems. Furthermore, this amendment will set metrics for defining significant adverse impacts on both wildlife and their habitat. These will add a definition of significant adverse impacts. Some of the issues that we had was between solar and wind, we had different requirements as far as wildlife goes, and we wanted to make those consistent with each other. That is the purpose of this amendment. Oh. And it's stuck. Okay, well, we'll move on. And so the first section will be, first amendment in your packet will be the solar energy facilities. Basically that they are in accordance with the Wyoming Governor's executive order, unless there's formal review and mitigation strategies with game and fish. Some of the issues that we had with the solar energy facility is when they were going through the application process, there was a lack of communication between the applicant and Wyoming Game and Fish. Obviously, there were concerns that they had, but it just seemed like there was a disconnect that was occurring. We did add into the solar energy facilities additional language a year later, but this tightens it up. Also, that in areas that would result in significant adverse impacts, wildlife habitat or crucial wildlife range, that they have to mitigate it, and that there shall not be significant adverse impacts. And then we'll go into what that definition is. Also, that we're adding into the wind energy is that they incorporate project recommendations created by local, state, and federal government bodies, departments, or agencies. At a minimum, these agencies shall include game and fish. So this was a disconnect between the wind energy and the solar energy, where we were requiring it in solar for them to incorporate project recommendations created by, let's say, game and fish or federal. And so we're adding that into also wind energy conversion systems. So cleanup language there. Also, under the natural and biological resources in wind energy conversion system language, we're adding that all adverse impacts shall, during site review, permitting shall be fully mitigated through appropriate siting. Obviously, when you have development that's going to be around these areas, there's going to be some sort of adverse impacts, but we're asking them to mitigate those. Under greater sage grouse, in wind energy systems, again, to be consistent with the solar energy requirements, we're asking them to be in accordance with the governor's executive order. We had that in solar, but we did not have that in wind. We also added Met Tower language. We did not actually have any Met Tower metrics or requirements. We permitted them, but we didn't actually have height requirements, setbacks, and notifications to the FAA, which is an important thing to have. So we added those requirements in. During the planning and zoning, we were going through and realized that we had requirements for removal of defective and abandoned wind energy, but we didn't include Met Towers, just in case those were to be abandoned. Those would be included into those requirements. And then as far as we also put a metric as far as significant adverse impacts, that way we actually have a definition to go by, and that has been included in the definition section. Mr. Chairman, we heard this at the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the vote was unanimous to move this forward. We're asking, staff is asking for, in accordance with the Wyoming Procedures Act, that we do a notice of intent to change the regulations and open a 45-day comment period. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate that. Any questions on the notice of intent, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Tillman.
we did have an underground tour with the Game and Fish, the BLM, and proponents when they did the solar thing. But I just asked that be sure to send these to the BLM, because if it's on BLM property, they should be aware of our requests, and
Sure.
they ignored it when we had the on the ground visit.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Tillman, we can certainly, during that 45-day comment period, we'll forward it to them.
Thank
Not a
you.
problem.
Any other questions or comments? Do we still need to do a public hearing even though we're doing the 45-day? Typically do.
We
just to make it
typically
cleaner?
do, just in case someone wants to.
Very good. At this time, if there's anyone online or in the audience who would like to speak to this notice of intent for the language amendments, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Commissioners, I'd entertain a motion to approve the notice of intent to open the 45-day comment period in accordance with Wyoming Administrative Procedures Act.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Slaughter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just one additional thing that I would just like to ask is, right now, Mr. De Leon and I are working on comments for the scoping period for the Rock Springs Resource Management Plan amendment. We're actually close to finishing a draft, and hopefully we might be able to have that done this week. But what we're asking is, we want to make sure before we send those comments, and the comment period unfortunately ends before the county commissioner meeting, the first meeting in November. So we're asking that if we could have a special meeting next week. Unfortunately, that would probably land on Halloween, but we are asking that if that would be okay with the Board of County Commissioners to possibly have a special meeting that day. Wouldn't be too long, probably 30 minutes at the most.
You're looking for Friday the 31st, Eric?
Yes,
What time were you thinking?
we're
Flexible.
open.
Commissioners? Are you guys available in the morning at 31st? Commissioner Richards?
Mr. Chairman, I don't remember where I heard, but I thought that they would extend the comment period as many days as the government was closed. Is that true? John, do you?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Richards, I don't have it. I've heard that, but there's nothing definitive. That's what I'm concerned about. Anything? Yeah. 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 So until it's extended, we are forced to, until it's officially, then we're forced to follow that timeline right now. That's what we're concerned about. But we can certainly, if we hear anything, we can hold off on that and bring it to the county commissioner meeting.
Mr. Chairman, morning of Friday the 31st is great for me.
I can make it work. You want to do 9, 10? You guys open to that?
9's good.
Let's do 9 on the 31st.
That works. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Get that advertised.
Okay.
Okay. Appreciate that. We'll look for the draft and provide some feedback ahead of that. Appreciate you guys working on that.
Okay.
Thanks, Eric and Casty. That's going to move us right along into the county resident comments and concerns portion of the agenda. At this time, if there's anyone online or in the audience that would like to address the governing body on any issues you may have, we limit this to 3 minutes and the floor is now open. Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the county resident comments and concerns portion of the agenda. And commissioners, that's going to move us right along into tab B, which is the consent agenda. Before you this morning are 10 items. First being the approval of the October 7th, 2025 meeting minutes. Second is the approval of the county vouchers, the warrants, the expenditure approval listing, and the commissioner's report. Third is the approval of the monthly reports. Fourth, the approval of the abates and rebates. Fifth, the approval of the human service agreements. Sixth is a request to ratify the Coalition of Local Governments comments on the Bureau of Land Management's changes to the proposed resource management plan amendment for the Greater Sage Grouse range-wide planning. Seventh is a request to restaff 2 vacant positions in the county attorney's office. 8 is a request to restaff 2 vacant positions in the clerk of district court's office. 9 is a request to restaff 2 vacant positions in the facilities custodial department. And lastly, item number 10 is a request for the approval of resolution number 2025-10-CC-01, authorizing additional official holiday for the county employees for the year 2025 that we discussed at our last meeting. With that, we have had a request to remove the second vacant position in item B9, which is one of the positions in the facilities custodial department. And I would ask if there's any wishes to remove any other items for further consideration off the consent agenda. I would ask on item 2, the expenditure approval listing, that we remove the warrant for Vaughn's Plumbing and Heating. And with that and the removal of the second vacant position, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Now entertain a motion to approve the outstanding warrant for Vaughn's Plumbing and Heating off of the expenditure approval listing.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Toman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. I'm going to abstain, as that is the place in which I'm employed. Moving right along into commissioner comments. Commissioner Toman, the floor is yours.
Well, I thought it was a light 2 weeks, but I still came up with 2 pages of notes. So something was happening. On the 8th, I attended or listened in on the County Commissioner Association monthly call. I can't stress how important these are to keep us updated on what's happening in the state and the nation. Representative Hageman was on the call. She reported that the Miles City and the Buffalo BLM, Bureau of Land Management, resource management plans have been pulled back utilizing the Congressional Review Act for the first time in history. This will have huge impacts for Powder River Basin coal. Her staff is seeking Government Accounting Office permission to do the same with the Rock Springs Resource Management Plan. Her staff is also working with the American Trucking Association and the owner-operators to ensure that CDL driver licenses are only issued to English-speaking drivers. For safety reasons, they must be able to read road signs. The government shutdown, which is now in its 21st day, is affecting many grants and programs that come to Wyoming and other states. And I hope they get moving soon. Farson area fire and health boards have been included in the industrial siting project for the Dry Piney Helium project. I visited with local board members up there, and they are excited about this. Thanks to John De Leon for sharing the information. The skills games at Smith's grocery stores, I noticed that the Rock Springs booths have been shut down as of last night. As these games are for over 21-year-olds, there needs to be better locations and or oversight. Senator Cole provided an update at the October 15th Sweetwater GOP meeting. He said that the legislature will be looking into that at their next session. It was kind of a loophole in the skills game rules. Sweetwater County Outdoor Recreation, I listened in on the Zoom call, and I'll leave it to other commissioners who were in attendance. Yesterday, I met with Juvenile Probation Director Karen Kelly, one of my liaison duties. She provided an update on their program. She coordinates a committee to streamline the process for families and juveniles called Single Point of Entry that helps determine the best type of assistance. They saw over 342 cases last year. In 2022 and 23, they handled almost 500 cases, but she says they believe the reduction is due to having resource officers in the schools. So thank you, school districts, for stepping up and helping with that. The goal is to help juveniles stay out of jail through counseling or services such as the youth home, even though their offenses are adult type of offenses and may range from aggravated battery to car theft, firearms, property destruction, alcohol and drug abuse, and so on. And she did provide me with a breakdown of how many cases under the different categories that they dealt with. Families can seek assistance at the Juvenile Probation Office in Rock Springs in the HHS building to provide families assistance in working through the court processes. They're helping to sponsor Sweetwater County's 5th International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day on Saturday, November 22nd from 11 to 1 p.m. at Broadway Theater. April Thompson is leading the effort, and suicide survivors and families of those who lost members will be sharing information. So it's a call out to the community, and I do have flyers that will be posted around the community. Also attend the library board meeting last night. They accepted the 2025 budget agreement from the county. They adopted their health insurance premium schedule, which is the same as the county's. They adopted a 2026 holiday and closure schedule and a board meeting schedule. A committee was formed to review library card and lending policies. Director Lindsay Travis provided her report and upcoming programs. I notified them of the role of local government liability pool and the skills game in Smith stores. Amanda Romero gave an update on the spooky thrifted painting class. It was kind of creative class. She's trying to do at least 2 a month for community members. They obtain a thrift store painting and then they try to enhance it with some spooky features like ghosts or whatever. And so they had over 10 people. They had 10 people participate in that contest. So they were, or that class, I'm sorry. So I thought that was pretty creative. Today, the Bureau of Land Management Resource Advisory Council was scheduled to meet, but of course, due to the government shutdown, we will not be meeting. I represent county commissioners on that board, and my appointment is up for renewal this year. Upcoming coalition of local governments will meet in Lyman this Thursday. And the Sweetwater County Combined Communication Center Board meeting is on Monday at 2:30 at the Sheriff's Training Center. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Tillman. Any questions or comments for Commissioner Tillman's report? If not, Commissioner Richards, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, commissioners. As with Commissioner Tillman, it's been a relatively light couple of weeks since I saw you last time, and I still got 2 pages of notes. On the 8th, I remotely attended the NACO CEWD monthly meeting, After that, I attended the SCORC Steering Committee training at the college, followed by the SCORC General Collaborative Meeting. Great turnout for the general meeting. SCORC is looking for new members, both at the collaborative and steering committee level. So if you know anybody that's interested, let me know and I'll pass it on. On the 10th, I joined most of you back here for the Rock Springs Chamber Boost Academy's Serving to Impact session here at the courthouse. I was really impressed by the group that attended this year, and the questions that they asked were excellent. You could tell they did their homework and took the whole thing very seriously. Chamber puts on the Boost Academy every year, and if you're a young professional out there looking for a great opportunity to be part of next year's academy, I highly recommend looking into it. Later that day, I joined Chairman West and Public Works Director Gene Legursky on a tour of the old hospital on C Street. On the 14th, I joined Chief Deputy County Attorney John DeLeon and Land Use Director Eric Bingham on a trip to Big Piney for the Dry Piney Industrial Siting pre-hearing. On the 15th, I spent the morning on Little Mountain glassing for deer, but didn't come back with anything. Guess hunting season isn't over for me yet. That afternoon, I rushed back for an SEDC meeting at the courthouse. We continue to work on planning how we move forward, and we plan on seeking the services of a contract employee sometime in the near future to work part-time in responding to inquiries, keeping a database of commercial and industrial real estate inventory, and doing BR&E visits, and of course, following up on economic development leads. On the 16th, I attended the Sweetwater County Republican Party's quarterly Central Committee meeting and heard reports from several elected officials. On the 17th, I headed to Bear Lake, where I joined a group of great friends in celebrating Commissioner Jones's 60th birthday. Happy birthday, Commissioner Jones. He led us up into the mountains on an off-road trip, and I came back short a mirror and a running light, but I also managed to steal about 80 pounds of Idaho mud, so I didn't come back empty-handed. So happy birthday, Taylor. It's an honor to call you friend. That brings us all back here to today. Going forward, I've only got a few spare days left until my deer season closes, so I'll spend every extra minute up on the mountain. But I do have a couple of things on my calendar, but I'm going to miss a couple. The airport is having their meeting today, so I doubt I'll make it there unless we get out of here pretty early. I do have their financial report, though, and just as a quick note, their operating revenue is up $121,000 for the year, and their operating income is up $154,000 for the year. So 3 months into the new year, they're already looking up on revenue and income. Southwest Counseling is having a special meeting tomorrow evening, but I'll be traveling, so I'm not sure I'll be able to attend even remotely. Next week on the 28th is the Dry Piney Industrial Siting hearing in Big Piney. That evening at 5:30 p.m. is the premiere of the Wyoming PBS documentary Afar and Below, the story of Wyoming Trona miners, and that's going to be at the Broadway Theater in Rock Springs. I'm not sure if the hearing in Big Piney will be over in time to get back to Rock Springs to make it to the show, but I will try to be there. On the 29th is the regular Southwest Counseling meeting. On the 31st, the Sweetwater County Republican Party will host their annual Halloween party at the Rock Springs Chamber of Commerce Park. They will be giving out free hot dogs, hot chocolate, and of course candy to trick-or-treaters from 3 to 7 p.m. on Halloween. They will also be drawing for the winner of their big scary gun raffle, the winner of which will take home the Weatherby Model 307 that I built for them. So if you haven't bought tickets for it yet, this is your last chance. And then on November 1st is the annual Cowboys Against Cancer banquet at the Events Complex. This year, I donated a huge selection of Sazerac and Buffalo Trace expressions from my personal collection that will be included in their live auction. It includes a bottle of Van Winkle Special Reserve 12-year-old bourbon and a bottle of Old Rip Van Winkle 10-year-old bourbon, and a selection of 14 other bottles of mostly allocated and sought-after brands, all in a Wyoming-made Wild Gear 90-liter cooler that they donated for the cause. So if you're a whiskey lover and have a chance to attend, I hope to see you there bidding on it. Every dollar goes to the great cause of supporting cancer victims right here in Sweetwater County. One last item of note is that Chloe Valentine is the new Southwest Regional Director for the Wyoming Business Council, covering Sweetwater, Uinta, and Lincoln counties, and she is based out of Rock Springs. So I'm looking forward to working with her in many capacities. I think that is all I have for you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Thanks, Commissioner. Appreciate the report. Questions or comments for Commissioner Richards? Good luck hunting. Commissioner Jones, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the goal is to get an animal right off the bat and not drag it out, but could be wrong.
That's the opposite of the goal. The opposite of the goal.
On the 8th, I attended a meeting with Steph Kessler and John Moisinski. They're from the Friends of the Red Desert, the newly formed group, and they wanted to discuss recreation in the Red Desert, as well as BLM RMP and the BLM itself. Like I said, they're a new group, and they're trying to work with all different types of recreationalists in order to maintain the Red Desert area. Also on the 8th, I attended the WCCA video conference call. Unfortunately, I did get interrupted at my desk, so I didn't get to listen to every single word, but I do appreciate these calls. They're always full of valuable information that benefit not only commissioners, but also every single one of our constituents. I appreciated hearing from our delegation in DC and appreciate their support of the WCCA each month. As should be obvious, associations are very valuable. If we just simply look at all of the associations, both in and out of government, it doesn't take much thought to realize they exist because they are helpful. They have knowledge, connections, and a great ability to educate, which only benefits all of us. Also on the 8th, I attended the Sweetwater County Outdoor Recreation Collaborative meeting. It's always great to get together with that group and discuss the different projects that are being worked on in Sweetwater County, ranging from biking to hiking to different motorized events. I reported on our progress on the trail system that all of us have been working on several months ago when we voted to enroll our county roads in order to help connect counties and communities for off-road use. Pretty much anybody who wants to use a road or trail will be able to do that and travel from one community to the next. I also reported on the project my family and I started, which is an off-road trip from Evanston to the steps of the Capitol in Cheyenne to celebrate our country's 250th birthday. I'd like to take a second to thank everyone involved for their time and commitment to seeing these projects through. You really want to take a second and single out YDOT for a moment. Neither of these projects would probably be possible without YDOT agreeing to access that required legislation. YDOT has had a how can we get to yes view in their organization, and I greatly appreciate their cooperation. On the 9th, I attended the Rock Springs Chamber Luncheon, where the Memorial Hospital Sweetwater County gave a presentation, as well as Food Bank of Wyoming. It's always good to hear updates from the hospital, and the sad side of the presentations was that it's disappointing to hear how many people are in need of food for their families, but I'm always thankful to hear from organizations stepping up to help those in need. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the Boost Day here with all of you as I was attending a funeral. On the 15th, I attended a meeting with Christina Marshall, Candy Pendleton to discuss possible projects at the events center, that the events complex that might utilize available grant money from the state of Wyoming and the governor's office. This is the 250th grant program that was put together for the celebration next year. Unless it's changed or changes, there is talk. There's a $10,000 grant as well as a $25,000 grant. In order for those grants to be awarded, there are a couple of things that we need to do as a commission. We need to first have a resolution for a committee, and then we also need to form a committee. I'm suggesting myself, our chairman, and Christina Marshall to be the committee, open to anybody else. The committee doesn't do a whole lot besides write letters in support of the projects and send them into the state. So however the commission would like to handle that is fine with me. There are no requirements for how many or who has to be on the committee. It just, we have to form a committee. So we just have to do the resolution and the letters. And so it's pretty simple, but we are not picking one project over another. There is a task force created by the state that will do that. So we really just kind of push the projects forward and then let the folks in Cheyenne decide. Also on the 15th, I attended the quarterly Sweetwater GOP meeting. Normal reports were given by elected officials and preparations for the GOP trick or treat were discussed. As usual, Sweetwater Republicans will hand out roughly 600 hot dogs and many gallons of hot chocolate kids on Halloween at the Rock Springs Chamber of Commerce starting at 5 p.m. Thanks goes to Commissioner Richards and Kelly's Convenience Stores for donating the food and drink. And that brings me to the end of my report. I don't know what everybody's preference is for the committee for the grants for the 250th, but it's very simple. We don't need to make a big deal out of it, but it doesn't, the committee has to be formed.
Thanks, Commissioner. Appreciate your report. Yeah, I've had a few meetings on that regard as well. And obviously you and I have been in discussion. We think we can have the resolution and any other data prepared for next meeting, I believe. So if this governing body's okay, we'll, I guess, appoint ourselves for that resolution and we can take action on it at that time, unless there's any of you that would like to be involved with that. It's kind of a weird, ultimately it's up to the state anyway. So I don't know why we go from the county having to appoint a committee that then just sends letters of recommendation to the state's committee, but I assume there's some form of validation through that process, but I'm happy to help out in that regard. I believe Commissioner Jones's intent is to simplify it as much as possible because there seems to be a lot of, I guess, anxiety around the process and getting going, because I believe you have through the end of the year to apply. So,
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I did want to mention that it was announced at the SCORC that they did increase the limit on the grants, I think, to $50,000 because they'd had a lack of applications. So there's extra money available and can do a little bit bigger project with it.
very good. Is everyone good moving forward that way? And we'll have something official at the next meeting. Sounds like it. Thanks for volunteering me, Commissioner. Appreciate that. Any,
You weren't in the room, so.
yeah, it's my own fault. Comments or questions for Commissioner Jones's report? If not, I guess I'm next. Pretty light report for me, so I'll try not to be too repetitive. After our last meeting, I had a meeting with Sheriff Grossnickel and Under Sheriff Tomich in regards to some future capital needs they have for within their department. Later that week, participated in the Rock Springs Chambers Boost Leadership Academy. Had a good time with that, as always. I think the second time we've done that, and it's good to hear and expose some of those individuals who are willing to step up and kind of take on those leadership roles to learn more about what takes place in government. We often don't have much of an audience or get asked the tough questions, but they did kind of a mock commissioner meeting where they all sat up here and they called us to the podium to answer the tough questions. So that was a fun interaction, and certainly appreciate them involving us within their government day. Later that afternoon, as Commissioner Richards stated, he and I met with Public Works Director Legursky to tour the 731 C Street facility. As you know, Inside Connections rents a very small portion of that facility, so the bulk of it sits vacant, and we're trying to brainstorm some potential ideas for the future. Obviously, the more a building sits, it more or less dies with lack of use, and so it's a sound facility. It's a large facility, but isn't doing much good for the community just to sit there vacant. So we're trying to plan ahead and think ahead, and we'll see where that heads. But had a few different meetings with the America 250, the semi-quincentennial event. Lots of interest since our last meeting. I think everyone's anxious to apply for those potential grant opportunities, and as such, they're kind of relying on us because the language states that it must come from a committee within the county or from the county. And so I actually attended a meeting that was put on yesterday from Travel and Tourism with various stakeholders in the community, both City of Rock Springs and Green River, the Rock Springs Museum, the County Museum, the Daughters of the American Revolution that presented to us at the last meeting were there, and the events complex. So Candy at the events complex has the project that she spoke to when she presented last in regards to the silo, and she's got some things in the works there that she plans to work with the different museums for some of the background. Each kind of entity, so to speak, had their own plans. Obviously, the Daughters of the American Revolution wanted the plaque in the Green River Park. Green River's working towards that. Sounds like Rock Springs is doing the same. Rock Springs is also trying to coordinate efforts with the events complex in regards to next year's firework display. So there's a lot going on. I told them I would follow back with them after hearing from Commissioner Jones today in regards to some direction that we can hopefully help out with this committee that he spoke to. So we'll try and have all that information prepared for the next meeting, which should give basically 2 months to get those grants submitted and over to the state. A lot of them have them ready to go already. So there was an interest to have everyone on the call on that committee, and I quickly responded with, we're trying to simplify it as best we can, and that probably wasn't necessary, but that I would obviously not speak on all of your behalf. So having some better direction today will help with that, and we'll look forward to getting that process kicked off on November 4th. Other than that, just honestly been working towards some of the agenda items today. And for a light agenda, there's some difficult items for discussion between the solid waste district and the EMS district discussions, and very similar statutes, but very different processes, so to speak. And so there's a lot of different angles to study and prepare for in that regard. So I look forward to those discussions later this morning here. Next week, I've got my monthly liaison meetings between an opioid committee meeting, Young at Heart's monthly meeting, and the events complex. Likely going to have to miss the events complex because of the Wyoming PBS world premiere that Island just spoke to with the Afar and Below, the story of the Wyoming Trona miners that falls on that evening at the Broadway Theater. I was interviewed for that production, I think it was back in 2023, in regards to the local Trona mines and how that affects certainly government and the revenues that brought forth to make this county tick, so to speak. So I look forward to seeing that. I didn't know near as much as I did then. I still don't know a whole lot, but I know more. So I'm interested to see how bad I screwed that up on our behalf, but hopefully it turned out okay. And I believe that's about it. So I would stand for any questions. If not, Commissioner Slaughter, you get to be Mr. Redondo today. Floor is yours, sir.
Glad to be Mr. Redundant, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. On the 8th, I attended the regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board. The board heard a request for a zoning map amendment for a 25.7 acre tract of land owned by Adonis Bourdain and Eliza Frias. The board unanimously adopted a resolution to approve the zoning map amendment, which we also approved earlier this morning. The board also approved language amendments to sections 7, 17, and 21 of the Sweetwater County 2015 zoning resolution, which we also approved a movement of intent earlier this morning. On the 9th, I joined Land Use Director Bingham for discussion with owners in the Arrowhead Springs subdivision. The owners expressed several concerns ranging from decreased well flows in the subdivision to roads being constructed without permits. Eric and I listened to the concerns and gathered information on the issues that were compiled by the landowners. Eric informed the landowners he would have his department review the information and follow up on the issues. I had previously discussed the illegal road construction with Public Works Director Legursky, and he talked with the contractor who ceased construction until permits are in place. We will follow up as information becomes available. Later that day, I joined Public Works Director Legursky for a tour of the Knight Building. It was good to see the near completion of the facility. The transformation has been remarkable and will prove to be a great asset for the county for many years to come. While I may not agree with the way the purchase of this property was originally handled, I do believe it is now worth much more than what our investment has been to renovate it. Ultimately, over time, I believe that investment will prove to be of great benefit. Logistically, it makes good sense to me to have all of the functions handled from one location. On the 10th, as you've all spoken, participated with fellow Commissioners West, Richards, Assessor Davis, Treasurer Cowan, Clerk Lane in a mock commissioner meeting held in conjunction with an activity organized by the Rock Springs Chamber for its Boost Leadership Academy. The exercise was a great opportunity for students of the Academy to experience a commission setting and to ask questions of local government officials. I think this is a great exercise, and my hope is that it will stimulate interest in local government activities for participants in the future. On the 13th, I attended the monthly Star Transit Authority meeting. The board received its annual audit report. Alex Florick of Carver, Florick, and James CPAs gave the report. The report was a favorable or clean audit. Of note, the organization showed a net increase of $145,000 on its balance sheet. Ridership was once again up significantly with 766 more riders in September of 25 versus September of 24. The board also voted to sell 2 buses that are thought to be in poor condition. Selling prices are expected to be between $5,000 and $9,999. On the 14th, I met with Museum Director Dave Mead to discuss items that would be covered in the 10/14/25 meeting that I was unable to attend. I was able to meet Laura Dale, the new public engagement coordinator. She has been busy organizing several events. The museum participated in the Green River Downtown Monster Bash on 10/11, which was reported as a great success. They also held the Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead event on the 18th. I have not heard how that went, but I'm sure that it was also a great success. They put together an exhibit honoring the Day of the Dead and will have it on display through the fall season. They're still trying to fill the curator position and have several applicants. The hope is to fill a position in the near future. They're still working with the airport to fill a new display case at the airport. Dave has some plans and is working with various contacts to facilitate his ideas. Exhibit and storage space continues to be a major concern. 10/15 was the opening day of my general elk areas, and I've managed to spend several days in the mountains with family and friends, enjoying much of what the state of Wyoming has to offer. It's been a beautiful fall, but unfortunately, possibly not according to Commissioner Jones, there has been some cold white precipitation in some of the areas I've been frequenting. I'm sure it won't be long before the winter rears its ugly head. With that, Mr. Chairman, I would close my remarks and stand for any questions.
Thanks, Commissioner. Appreciate the report. Any comments or questions for Commissioner Slaughter?
No, but I have an addition to mine, if I may.
Absolutely.
I'm doing mock interviews with Climb Wyoming for their nursing program tomorrow morning.
Very good. Good luck. Ask the tough questions. Nice work, commissioners. That concludes the commissioner comments portion of the agenda. Busy times as always. This is going to move us into the more difficult part of the agenda today with tab C, the action and presentation items. First, we have a proposal for technology cost audit with the Spyglass Group. We've got Isaiah Lloyd, the SMB account executive. And looks like they're joining us online. And good morning, gentlemen.
Morning. How's everyone doing?
Doing well.
Awesome. Yeah, my name's Nick Openkar. I'm the director of sales over here at Spyglass, and then Isaiah is joining me as well, an SMB account executive who is on the agenda there. But yeah, I know we were in touch with Islander. I should say Isaiah was originally, and had helped set this up. But really what I was hoping to accomplish would just be from a high level perspective, kind of lay out, what Spyglass does, how we've helped out other counties, districts, organizations in general, in the area. And then if this is something that, from a high level perspective, you think there could be some benefit, we can talk through, what would be, in terms of next steps, or obviously if this is something you don't think would be beneficial, obviously we can go separate ways at that point. But, just curious if you thought that'd be a good game plan.
Do you have a presentation or anything?
Isaiah, did you talk about did we send anything over?
We've
Yes,
got
there should have been a handout attached.
Okay.
That should have been passed out with the application we filled out to be approved.
Got it. I do have a slide deck I can send over as well, if that would be beneficial after the fact to see. More so today, I was just going to kind of talk through, our process high level.
Yeah, our packet is just a little 2-pager with very brief information on it. So any background as to what you're pitching here would be beneficial.
Sure. Yeah. And yeah, can always send over some further information if that was something that, you were looking to see. But just from like a high level perspective, kind of what Spyglass does, the service we offer. So we do an analysis over our clients' technology spending. So that would include anything relating to voice, internet, data, wireless, any cloud services as well that the county might have. What we do, we take a look retroactive, see where your providers that you might have in those areas, whoever those might be, see if you've been overbilled mistakenly in the past. If you have, we're able to go get those dollars back to your accounts. And then we also look for ways to reduce your current monthly spending moving forward. I'll touch on those specifically here in just a second. But just want to emphasize, make sure we're on the same page. We do these analyses without looking to change who you're using in terms of your providers. We're not looking to sell any type of like phone service or hardware. Simply put, we're taking a look at what the county currently has in place, simply looking to see if there's some dollars out there where you've been overbilled by your providers. High level in terms of kind of the three main areas we do find savings. So I just mentioned recovery. Really, that's the historical part of our analysis, going back in time to see if there's any overbillings in the past. And then from a forward-looking perspective, there's really two ways we're able to find savings for our clients. First area would be service elimination. So exactly what it sounds like. We want to make sure that the county is really being billed efficiently, right? Making sure that you're using everything that you're paying for to these providers. Oftentimes, as you might be aware, folks are paying for dormant services, services that might be tied to like old locations, excessive services. So we're going to look to see if anything like that is out there that you're paying for. And then lastly, we want to make sure that the county is being billed competitively compared to other counties, organizations in general around you. So we use our database. We have about 16,000 clients, majority of that base being public sector organizations. So long story short, we have a lot of past data that we could leverage in our database to see, hey, is there a similar size county, in Wyoming paying for a similar service? Maybe they are getting a different rate since those aren't uniform, as I'm sure you're aware. So we'll check to see if anything like that's out there. You might be asking, how do you even run this review? To answer that, we ask our clients to give us copies of their 2 most recent months of invoices for any providers they have for their telecom services. Once we have that, we do ask for a 1-page agreement that allows us to run the review. That simply is just allowing us to run it. It's not forcing you to have to move forward with anything that we come back with in terms of recommendations. So we do operate on a completely contingency based model there. But once we have the 1-page agreement, a letter of agency, it's what allows us to work with the providers on your behalf, the 2 months of bills. That's all we need to do our review. We'll simply come back a few weeks later, present what we found. Like I said, it's really up to you. You're in a driver's seat. You can move forward with X, Y, and Z recommendations, not A, B, and C. You don't have to move forward with any recommendations. It is completely elective for you folks. And then if you do move forward with some of the recommendations, we do the work with the providers to actually implement any of those items. Okay. I'll stop there and I'll touch on how we would potentially earn a fee, but any questions on kind of the process as a whole?
Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Tillman?
Yes, I have a question. Have you been in contact with our IT department? Have you talked to them about this?
Yeah, good question. I think we were just in contact with Island, and then to set this up. Correct me if I'm wrong, Isaiah. I don't think have you been in touch with IT?
No, no one, and specifically in the IT department, specifically there.
The second question I have is a lot of our bills are paid on an annual basis, so you're going to miss them if you're doing 2 months.
Gotcha. Yeah, good question or good point you bring up. If you have anything that's like an annual bill, you can just submit the one, annual copy that you get a year, and that would suffice if you wanted to include it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Additional questions? Commissioner Jones?
Mr. Chairman, did you say you were going to get into the fees that you charge, or?
Yes, that was going to be right where I go next. Yep.
Okay.
So I can go ahead and get into that. So if you remember, like I just said, there's really 2 prongs of our analysis. Recovery, again, that's the historical side of things. Any overbillings we're able to recoup from the past, essentially dead dollars where you've been overbilled. If you elected to implement any of those opportunities, we split those down the middle in a 50-50 split. And then the forward-looking savings that are implemented, that's a bit different. So obviously that would be anything that reduces your bill, starting now moving forward. How we would share in those savings is we would simply attach a 12 times multiplier to the amount we've saved the county per month, keeping you folks budget neutral that first year. So, in other words, these are dollars that you've already budgeted. You were going to overpay to your providers anyways, would simply be redirected to Spyglass that first year, for identifying and implementing those items. And then the county would be seeing 100% of those savings year 2, 3, 4, obviously into perpetuity that you would have just been overpaying for these services. All designed to keep the ROI less than a year. But yep, that's really it from a fee perspective. I guess any other additional questions?
Mr. Slaughter?
Mr. Chairman, I just think at this point in time, it would behoove us to have our IT department work with this issue. And then once they have been able to do an analysis of this and work with the provider to come back with some type of advice to us. I just think this is right up Tim's alley. And I think that we'd be missing the boat if we didn't have him work on this issue before we look at making any significant decisions on it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we should put you in touch with our IT department to kind of vet some of these kind of back end, so to speak, works that you guys offer and how they would look and incorporate some of our different, software and whatever contracts we may have. And if IT feels like it's a worthwhile project to move forward with, they can bring a recommendation to us. But aside from that, it's kind of some of the language we don't speak other than budgets and efficiency. So I guess sounds like you've been in conversation with Commissioner Richards, who is our liaison to IT. So perhaps we can connect you to the right people and go from there. Unless
Sure.
anyone else has any other feedback.
Agreed.
So we'll plan on that. If that works for you guys, we appreciate you getting on the agenda and taking time to tell us a little about yourselves, and we'll be in touch to get you connected with IT, and we'll go from there.
That works. We really appreciate the time. You all have a good rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
Take care.
All right, commissioners, that puts us ahead of schedule quite a bit. We are about 25 minutes ahead. So we're going to take a little bit of a break here. Our next item is supposed to kick off at 10:35. So let's break for, let's call it 15 minutes. We'll resume back here at 10:15. We'll call this meeting back to order. We returned from break. Where we left off was tab C, item number 3. We've got a presentation proposal this morning from the Sweetwater County Solid Waste Disposal District number 1 for a district expansion. And joining us this morning is Solid Waste Disposal District number 1's General Manager, Dan Chetterbach. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Like you said, I'm here representing the Sweetwater County Solid Waste Disposal District number 1 and to talk about a possible district expansion. Just wanted to mention that we're not looking for a final decision this morning, just kind of a step 1 to kind of present to the board what our ideas are and some steps going forward and how we can accomplish this goal if possible. Currently, Sweetwater County has 3 solid waste districts. The Eden Valley Solid Waste District, which is to the north, as you can see on the slide there. To the east is Sweetwater County Solid Waste District number 2. And then in the middle is our solid waste district, Sweetwater County Solid Waste District number 1. We currently hold tax districts 101, 103, 105, 106, 107, 109, 110, 113, 151, 152, 202, and 212. What we're looking at is just advancing into the western parts of the county to include Green River, Jamestown, possibly Granger, because these districts currently have no solid waste districts. So this slide shows the area that we're trying to expand into. Also, the board is interested in possibly expanding into the other 2 areas there that you can see in pink and light blue. Sorry about that, the other tax districts to make it contiguous as well. So there's some interest in expanding there. And then I excluded Granger on that map, but I'm currently talking with them. They're getting back with me on a decision. They might be interested in joining the district as well. So within our current tax district, we've currently partnered with a bunch of entities, and we currently support the Ray Lovato Recycle Center. We help fund them. We also work with Rock Springs High School. We teach some environmental science classes. We educate their students on the importance of landfills and what they pose to the challenges they impose to the environment, and also how we help the environment there. We also provide fundraising opportunities for Rock Springs High School and other schools within school district number 1. Some of the other things we work with within our district, Boy Scouts of America and the Little Leagues, we provide fundraising opportunities for them. Currently working with the city of Rock Springs, we take their biosolids out at the landfill, provide them to people to use in their yards, and then also we mix them in our compost. We work other industries we work with, Kinder Morgan, we give an outlet for their hard to handle wastes. Rocky Mountain Power, same thing. They bring us a lot of their poles and their other hard to handle waste. We use those poles to make litter fences out at our landfill. S&F Phosphates, we work with them. We take their electronics and their hard to handle waste. So we not only handle trash within our community, but we are also involved in our communities. So we wanted to also give that opportunity to be involved in the other communities that we are going to extend into. And then also during the past about 1.5 to 2 years, we've developed great relationships with communities and industries outside of our district as well. We take Church and Dwight's spent baking soda. We've worked with Solvay to take some contaminated soil and hard to handle waste from their sites out at the mine. We work with a company called Tire Reclaim that's out of Idaho. They recycle our tires, and we're looking at a possible partnership with them to recycle tires. So we have 0 tires going in the ground out at the landfill, and they'll in turn be turned into mats, and then the pellets that you see on football fields, kind of that fly up, they make that product, and jersey barriers and all kinds of stuff like that. So some great partnerships outside of our industry. We work with Pinedale. We take their tires, their lithium ion batteries, because that community up there currently has no outlet for that. Uena County, we started taking tires from there because they have no more capacity at their landfill. Lyman, Mountain View, that all went to Uena County. So we're helping out some tire shops there to take their tires as well. So tires are a big deal right now. They're very hard to dispose of. They're hard to handle waste, and we're providing opportunities for communities and industry outside of our district to do that. So we also work with Teton County to take asbestos and other hard to handle waste from them. So just giving you a little idea that we work well within our community, and we work well outside of our district too. We have the ability to easily incorporate other communities and industry into our district. So how does expanding the current Sweetwater County Solid Waste Disposal District number 1 benefit Sweetwater County and its residents? First, district expansion provides environmental protection. This is huge. Fewer landfill sites. So when you go to a regional style landfill where a bunch of communities within a county, say ours, Sweetwater County, just brings our waste to one landfill instead of many. Having a regional site equals just less chance of having an environmental event. So we use our current infrastructure, we use our current environmental protection out at our landfill to make sure that we don't have events. And so the more holes you dig in the ground, the more possibility you have of groundwater contamination and other stuff like that. So DEQ really likes the idea of regional landfills, and so do we. We like just bringing waste to one place instead of having it scattered all over the county. So greater environmental protection, less sites equals a reduced opportunity to impact the environment in multiple locations, resulting in reduced potential for remedial efforts. Using an existing landfill includes its environmental controls and techniques that protect the environment, and then also can be easily enhanced with the expansion of the district for better protection. So with expanding our district, bringing on additional communities, the additional funding that would bring, it would also allow us to enhance the protections we currently have in place and provide us with an opportunity to build better infrastructure for that as well. Other opportunity of bring is to buy a shredder to further increase cell life. So the idea here is the waste that you're taking in and putting in the ground or putting in your cell, the smaller you can get it, the greater it can compact. I recently visited Eastern Laramie landfill in Burns. They have 2 shredders that they use on site, and he's seeing really great effect that they have. So they can take on almost twice as much in their cell as they did before. So when you get big items like pallets, big hard to handle construction and demolition waste, run it through a shredder, and then you compact that. They have way good compaction, greater compaction, and then this equals to expanding their cell life. So the less cells you build over the life of a landfill, the longer you can stay in that landfill, and then the less tax dollars that you have to spend building that. So that's one of our most expensive things is building cells. So we want to stay in them as long as we can. So district expansion would provide us an opportunity to buy a shredder to further increase that cell life. Another big thing, enhancing customer experience. So opportunity to build a new MRF or a recycle center at the landfill. This would mean more diversion from the landfill, more airspace saved, the cells last longer, and more tax dollars saved. To further expand on this, I'd like to invite up our vice chairman and to talk a little bit more about what this could mean for the community, adding a new MRF or a recycle center at the landfill.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Devin Brubaker, wearing a different hat this morning, both as the Vice Chair of the Solid Waste District Board and as the President of our local nonprofit recycling center in Rock Springs, the Ray Lovato Recycling Center. From the recycling center standpoint, we greatly appreciate the partnership with the Solid Waste District and in taking care of recycling services within the district. We recycle an average of 2 million pounds of materials a year. And that is all done by hand right now. So if you've ever spent any amount of time down at the recycling center, you'll know that we don't have any fancy equipment for sortation. We don't have any fancy shredding equipment or anything like that. It's all done by hand, and that generates 2 million pounds, mostly of product that is delivered to the recycling center by the residents and businesses of the community. By being able to build a new recycling center that would support more than just Rock Springs, it could support the entire county and even beyond. It would allow us to be able to do single stream recycling in all of the communities like you see in Green River right now. The big difference in Green River is all of that recycling is being baled and hauled to Salt Lake City at a considerable cost to the ratepayers there. To have that material then sorted and recycled, where that material could stay in Sweetwater County, get sorted here and shipped out to market from here like we do in Rock Springs. Having a facility large enough with even proper facilities like floor drains that can support us doing commingled recycling, we can increase that number exponentially from 2 million pounds. The last number I saw out of Green River was about 400 tons a year are being recycled in Green River and hauled to Salt Lake City. But out of that 400 tons, a certain percentage of it is actually waste that can't be recycled. So then we're hauling waste, not us, but the waste is being hauled all the way to Salt Lake City, which is very inefficient. And as I said earlier, very, very pricey to haul that to Salt Lake City. So the ability to have a co-located recycling facility with the landfill not only can help us increase the diversion rates at the landfill, but it can help us with education. We've talked about including education facilities at the landfill as well with the recycling facility to be able to communicate with our youth in the community about how they better handle their waste in the future, whether that's recycling or better ways to minimize waste generation. There's a lot of opportunities that can be had when we can consolidate and recognize the synergies that may exist in our community. And I might add that there's a lot of confusion that exists between Green River and Rock Springs about why Green River pays a certain rate and Rock Springs pays a different rate. And this idea of a consolidated solid waste district can solve a lot of those problems where the residents in either community are paying only for the hauling through their monthly or quarterly bills with their waste hauler. And the property tax would cover all of the disposal fees, which is what happens in Rock Springs and within the district. But that's not happening in Green River, which, as Dan will get to later, is costing residents more in Green River than what you see in Rock Springs. So happy to answer any questions now or later regarding recycling or how this district expansion could increase access to recycling services throughout our county. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Devin.
Thank you, Devin. So outside of adding a MRF or a recycle center at the landfill, an additional opportunity would be to add a used item warehouse. So more diversion. I've seen this in Sheridan and many other landfills around the state, or they just have a used item either where people can come and get lightly used stuff for free, or they pay. Sheridan's really interesting. They worked it out to $3.14. So the residents come and pay $3.14 for anything that's in the used items warehouse, and that just pays for their handling of the material to bring it up out of the pit or wherever it was and place it in the used item warehouse. So just another enhancement for customer experience. Opportunity for broader household hazardous waste collection. So currently, right now at the landfill, we allow residents to recycle used oil, used antifreeze, and then bring in any type of battery. So we recycle lithium ion batteries, 12-volt car batteries, any type of battery you can recycle out there. This would also give us the ability to add some infrastructure out there to take diesel, gasoline, other hard to handle chemicals. Right now, Rock Springs wastewater treatment plant takes a lot of these, but they're getting taxed. They're getting to capacity where they can handle that. So I'd like to give the residents the opportunity to dispose of these products out the landfill. There's a significant cost to this. There's other infrastructure that we could add, but the additional funding that enhancing or expanding the district could bring could give us the opportunity to build infrastructure to broaden our household hazardous waste collection. A better compost product. So right now we make compost out the landfill. We have manure, branch clippings, grass clippings that we mix and make this available to the public. Also this year, we'll be starting to mix in some biosolids from the city to make a better compost product. We recently hosted a compost class for the Wyoming DEQ for the western part of the state. And we're looking at getting a recipe from the guy. The guy was from Maine, from the Maine DEQ. It's actually called Maine DEP. And he came down and showed us a couple of better things that we could be doing. So with some additional infrastructure, we could have a great compost product for the public. So that gives another chance for enhancing some customer experience there with district expansion. Another thing it would give us is an opportunity to add a second scale. We have a lot of bottlenecks at our scale right now during the summer because we only have one scale and one scale house. So during the winter, not too much of a problem as it slows down, but during the summer months when people are doing construction stuff, our line can get out to the highway, which is long. So, and then we have a lot of people waiting to come out too. So one of the things we're looking at is the ability to add a second scale to get rid of those bottlenecks at the gate. Next, opportunity to become a tire repository. As I was saying earlier, tires are becoming a huge problem across the state. What we learned at the Wyoming Solid Waste and Recycling Association conference this year is that Wyoming DEQ has identified 50 sites across Wyoming, and there's still more on the rise where people are illegally dumping tires. It's just a huge pile of tires out in the middle of the desert. Because people either don't want to pay for them or they don't know that there's a place to get rid of them. So one of the solutions to that is just to have tire repositories across the state. And having infrastructure, we have a chance to become a tire repository for Western Wyoming. In early November, we have a meeting set up with Tire Reclaim, who we're currently working with, 6 other landfills, and then also a representative from Wyoming DEQ to discuss this possibility. If we become a tire repository, we would take pretty much the western side of the state's tires. We would either shred them on site or send them off to be shredded. And like I said, they would be turned into mats or that aggregate or that football field mulch. So a great opportunity there with a little bit of additional infrastructure. This can happen, and I think it would be great for the community. Like I said, 0 tires going in the ground, turned into a usable product, and with the right infrastructure, it could become a commodity for us. Incorporation of new technology. So in the past, landfills, you would just simply dig a hole in the ground. There's no thought of impact on groundwater or impact on the environment. You'd have no waste categorization of data. A lot of waste back in the past, even on our site, we're just kind of, you dig a hole, throw it in there. We don't care what's in there. It's just out of sight, out of mind. So some past practices, there's no thought of diversion or correct placement. We have a lot of landfills, and then on our side as well, we have no waste placement data. So old pits that were built in the 80s, 90s, some back in the 70s, we don't actually know what all is in the ground. So there's a lot of old practices out there. The inadequate data collection, like I was saying, there's no future planning or visions for landfills in the past. So no direction, just simply, again, dig a hole in the ground, bury it. There's handwritten tickets. So this would take forever. This would take forever in processing waste data, processing people at the gate. And then no diversion, no thought given, just bury it. So we're trying to move on from that past and that type of thinking into a new landfill of the future. So what we do now and what we're trying to incorporate, and then expanding the district, what it could also mean for us in additional infrastructure. Landfills have really become engineering marvels. We simply just don't dig a hole in the ground now. We go in, we have engineers design cells for us. So we have huge, 8-acre cells. The cell we just are just getting ready to complete is 8 acres. It's dug about 30 feet down, 35 feet at its deepest part. So we plan that, we excavate, then we line that cell, then we put geonetting on it, then we have an operations layer that goes up to the top. So much different now than digging a hole as was in the past. It's really an engineering marvel. What this does is protect the environment. So any type of leachate is what's created when you compact trash. It's the juice that comes out, sorry for the term, but that's collected and then it's pumped into a pond and it evaporates. So there's really very little chance that that gets into groundwater. So, and we leak test that, so we make sure. So a really engineering marvel. Second thing, landfills that we do now and going into the future, we have GPS. So within the last 2 years, we've incorporated some GPS into our site. So now our whole operating face is on GPS. So we can go in and look when we're done for the day, when we're done compacting, and see if we compacted waste correctly, or if there's a change of practice we can make to make that more efficient. So everything we bring in per day is analyzed at the end of the day by me. And then we talk about it the next morning. Did we place our waste efficiently today? Is there anything we could do to change that? So GPS gives us that opportunity. And that's one of the things we have incorporated out at our landfill. And it's been a fantastic tool. We've also incorporated some drone flyovers and site analysis. So this gives us a window into the future, how long our landfill is going to last, and then how we can make improvements to make it last longer. So what we're currently looking at now is we have about a 20-year life if we continued current practice. I think we can improve on those practices. And then with these drone flyovers and site capacity audits, I think we can extend that into 30 years with the cells we have remaining. We're also working with an engineering firm and developing a master plan and doing what's called a piggyback style landfill. So all the area that we currently have buried, we can line the top of that and then go up another area. So that gives us, 100+ years of life if we choose to go that way on our current site, and we won't have to get into our additional land to the south. So some technology and some infrastructure can lead to a great cost and tax saving for the residents of Sweetwater County. I mentioned leachate processing. So that's kind of what we do. When the trash is compacted, it's pumped into a pond and then that gets evaporated out. So we're concerned about that. We're concerned about the environment. So that's landfills in the future. You're thinking about that now, and then we're addressing that issue. We also have incorporated some RFID and enhanced data collection. So now everything that comes into our landfill, we know about. So if we get special waste like non-friable asbestos, it can go into our pit. It's properly cared for. We can shoot it with our GPS. So if there's ever an event or a question about that, people can come back, we can look at that, and we can know exactly where we need to excavate to get that out. Any type of other waste is also cataloged, so we can figure out tonnages on our green waste, on our construction and demolition, on our metal. So great thought has been given to that. And now instead of just throwing it in the ground, we know how much we're processing and what it's going to take to process that in the future to give us a timeline. And the RFID also is allowing us to process customers, again, enhancing customer experience. So our commercial companies now can come onto our scale and get through the landfill faster. So just another thing that we're incorporating out there. And then, like I said, with the district expansion, this can also be enhanced. We can also add better scale infrastructure and then some more cloud-based data programs. So now all of our data is in the cloud. We can further enhance that so we can access that anywhere we want. So if we're talking to engineers, talking to different communities, we have access to our data to give them. So it's great. It's a great way of moving into the future. Not a lot of people think about landfills, think about how to handle trash, but it's something that we're doing and that we're concerned about moving forward into the future. The other big thing I wanted to bring up for our district expansion is incorporating some new towns. This creates business opportunities for trash collection in Green River, Jamestown, and outlying communities. Right now, Green River is under contract with a company, and they currently pick up their trash. So expanding this would give the city of Green River some opportunities, and then residents of these towns a guaranteed place to dispose of municipal solid waste and household hazardous waste now and in the future. The challenge that these communities are having is they have no guaranteed place to dispose of their waste. So as a solid waste district, you can decide what comes into your landfill and what you don't accept. So these towns are looking for some security to dispose of their waste now and in the future, and incorporating them into our district would give them that security. And this would also give them that security without the need for digging a new landfill, without having to form a new solid waste district, and without having to pay tipping fees for residents of these towns. And then one of the big things I thought this would be great as a resident of Green River myself, we currently have no outlet for household hazardous waste for Green River, Jamestown, or any of these outlying communities. So what is happening with that? I don't know. I get a lot of calls. Where can we dispose of that? And I have no outlet to tell them because we currently don't take it as part of our solid waste district. City of Green River doesn't have a place for it. So if we can incorporate these communities in, that would give the citizens that opportunity to have a place to dispose of their oil, to dispose of their antifreeze, to dispose of some hard to handle products. So great opportunity there for that to happen. Also incorporating the mines, giving the mines a chance to use our landfill instead of having to dig a new landfill of their own. In talking with engineers from Tata and Sweetwater, both of their mines are, Sweetwater has about 2 years of life left on their mines. Tata has about 5 to 6 years. So it gives them an opportunity to just bring us their trash instead of having to dig new mines. So again, less holes in the ground, less chance for environmental impact, and great opportunity for them for cost savings. They simply just need to handle logistics to get it there. And then also opportunity for local businesses to work out there and collect their trash and give them a business opportunity. So like it says on the side, gives the mines the freedom to build and transfer stations or have trash collection instead of landfills. Presents a great alternative for mines to have landfills that are nearing end of life. So district expansion, financial opportunity that creates stability now and into the future. So currently over the last 3 years, the district valuation has gone down about 20%. And we were impacted, by the housing tax cuts, I'm sure, as everyone else in the community was. So what this expansion would do is it gives us a 42% increase in funding, and it would help bridge that gap that we're seeing, that downward trend of losing and on our valuation. So we're looking at about a 42% increase in funding. So the big question What would the tax cost be to residents of Green River, Jamestown, and possibly Granger if they decided to join? So the current fair market value of homes in Sweetwater County is around $302,500. Average assessed value of homes in Sweetwater County is around $28,737.50. And with our current mill levy for the solid waste district 1 being 2.91, equals about a yearly tax bill increase of just 3.9% for residents of these communities. Roughly $6.96 a month to use the Rock Springs landfill if we were able to expand in these communities. So not a huge hit to these citizens. Here's an idea of what they are paying now. So citizens outside of our district, they currently pay $65 a ton with a $20 minimum for just regular household municipal solid waste. If they bring tires to us, it's $120 a ton for tires. If they bring mattresses to us, there's $35 each for mattresses, 50 cents per pound for e-waste. And then, like I said earlier, there's currently no outlet for household hazardous waste for these residents. What's it cost to currently run our district? Right now, outside of capital expenses, we're looking at $2,814,450 annually for a current operational cost. So additional funding, if we expand our district, provides opportunity for completing some of our master plan goals. So right now, like I said, we're currently having a master plan constructed, and some of the goals in there, we've set out for 5 to 10 years. We can change that timeline and like if we decide to add a MRF, instead of looking at adding it in 5 to 10 years, maybe adding it in 2 years instead of that 5. So adding infrastructure, a big positive. And then the other positive, enhancing customer experience, adding that ability for broader household hazardous waste, adding recycling, adding a used item shed, better compost. So gives us a great opportunity just to add infrastructure. The other thing it would provide us for is to become self-sustaining. So right now we currently pay financial assurance to the state. So if we were to close our landfill, we would pay a portion of that, and then we pay a payment to the state each year to come in and take over and pay the cost of that remediation. So we could also set more money aside to become a self-sustaining landfill. It currently would cost a little over $5 million to do that. And so we would just go away from paying money to the state and becoming a self-sustaining landfill. So expanding would give us that opportunity as well. Any questions or comments?
Thanks, Dan. We appreciate the presentation and the background. I think you covered a lot of your operation well and answered some of the questions I had already for you, which was just other opportunities and revenues that may be coming in outside of what you're doing at the district level. And I think you touched on that.
Okay.
Is the objective here, I mean, obviously you're asking for an expansion, but is that coming solely from the district? Is there other, push? Obviously we're interested if the mines, I mean, it sounds like they have some interest in it. Obviously the communities you've been talking to, but is it more coming from a financial concern presently or just unlocking opportunity to the future? I kind of got both messages there. So just curious if you could expand on that.
Yeah, and unlocking opportunity for the future is a big thing. And then also just being able to incorporate Green River and give them some security and a place to dispose of their trash, really. But yeah, a big sense, just unlocking future opportunity.
So we've done quite a bit of research on this, just because there's a little bit of history in regards to Green River, and there was a solid waste district number 3 that was attempted back in, I think it was 1993, and they put together a task force and went after it before the voters, and it failed. Now, obviously that was 32 years ago, and a lot can change since then. But the idea of us passing a resolution to expand the boundaries without, I guess, the public input brings a little bit of pause. essentially implementing a 2 point, I think it was 9.1 in your slide deck there, mill that would be assessed to the residents of this expanded district, which are paying the same amount that, your current district in Rock Springs would be doing. And they don't have a say. They don't have representation on, a board hearings. They really have no say. And I don't know that that's our place as the five of us to make that decision without public input in that regard. That feels like taxation without representation.
Okay.
So I know there's different processes. Obviously there can be a petition from those that are interested in the district. There can be the creation of another solid waste district that then can later be consolidated if that's the wish. Do you have any take? Are you just looking for an expansion, or were you guys planning on going through the public process, and putting it to the public vote, or have you had those discussions, I guess?
We have, we are just currently looking for an expansion. That's what we've talked about with our legal team because we wanted to cover all of our bases. So in meetings we've had with the city of Green River and then with our attorneys, we were just looking for an expansion. And it was found that the Board of Commissioners can just pass a resolution and expand a district. That's what we're looking for.
Okay. Commissioners? Commissioner Jones?
I guess I'm probably going to be duplicating a little bit of what you say, but I guess what I'm really looking for is to hear that people want to pay a higher tax, they want to pay more taxes
Okay.
before I'm comfortable with saying anything. And obviously we're limited in what we can do anyway, but I need to hear that message before I'm on board.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Richards?
Dan, you covered what out-of-district residents are paying by the ton, but can you break that down to the bill that a current Green River resident is paying that includes tipping fees for their garbage? Because the tipping fees would go away and they'd replace that with the, on average, $6.90 a month tax, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So as a resident myself, so I think my last trash bill was 110 and change, something like that. We pay every 3 months to Wyoming Waste to pick up our trash and transfer it over. So, and then if I have an additional big load that I have to take over. So if you have a trailer or a dump trailer, they don't accept that at the transfer station. So I'm paying that monthly total. But then if I decide to take that over to us and I have a ton of garbage, I pay $65 a ton when I go over there too. So I'm paying as a resident to use our transfer station, our trash collection. But if I have bigger or more debris or any type of construction and demolition waste, I also have to go over and pay that tipping fee as well. So that would be 65 a ton. And then if I have tires, I pay $120 a ton. There's a separate charge for those tires. Like I broke down on that slide, any type of e-waste. So there's also additional charges on top of what I'm paying as a resident as well.
So Dan, on that $110 a month that you're paying to Wyoming Waste, I think.
Correct.
How much of that is a tipping fee?
How
How much is for the transportation?
Yeah,
and how much
I'm
is-
not aware of that. It's just
I think that might be the numbers that that the Green River residents are interested in. Is
Okay.
it worth us to pay that extra tax
okay.
to save those tipping fees?
Yeah,
'Cause
and I know we
Without a
were-
resident, out of
Sure.
area tipping fees are obviously higher than
Sure.
what we average out for
Okay.
resident tipping fees.
Okay, good question to get answered.
Mr. Tillman?
Yeah, my question is similar. I had a resident who's paying for a business monthly 114, I think 150 or I don't remember the exact amount per month. And they want to know if it's going to increase their bill or decrease it.
So, and currently in Green River,
Yes.
so that'd be a question for the city of Green River because they're currently handling that now. What I can say is it would take the tipping fee out of that bill. I know that much. But as far as the total bill, I couldn't give you that answer. That would be a question for the city of Green River.
And I have a second question. How would this affect Eden Valley? Because I think they're bringing their waste now to you.
That's correct. Yeah, Eden Valley has its own solid waste district, so they just simply pay our tipping fee when they bring it down. There would be no effect to them because they currently have a solid waste district.
Commissioner Slaughter.
Mr. Chairman, I would have a question as a Green River resident with respect to where the savings would come with respect to the tipping fees. Obviously, you know, I would like to think that I'm a relatively normal citizen of Green River. I don't use solid waste district number one. We're able to take 1,700 or 1,800 pounds or something like that as a resident of Green River to annually up, and I very rarely have ever been anywhere near that. So I don't have that additional cost. So looking at it for me, it would be a basic $15 a month cost for me based on the valuation of my home. I see right now what's going on with our water rates, what's going on with our sewer rates, things of that nature. We're seeing increases in everything that's going on. And while we may look at this and say, well, that's only a 3.9% increase, when you add to those other increases which are going on, the cumulative effect to everyone is really a big hit in our current economic environment here in Sweetwater County. So I think there needs to be more information that is collected on that, and more information that can be given to the citizens of Green River where the benefits will come from them. I can see, you know, the concept of having everything in one place and having a bigger facility. You know, there are many benefits that could come from that. I love the concept of being able to recycle tires. We were in Africa a couple of months ago, and in Africa they recycle every tire and they make shoes out of them. And I mean, it's crazy what can be done. So it's great to see those things. Another question, and I may be wrong with respect to the change in valuation that you would have, but in the numbers that I got from the county assessor's office, it looked like the current valuation of solid waste district number one was about $728,000.
That's correct.
The increase of those new districts would be about $992 million. So it would be an increase of almost 136% of what your current value would be. I think you stated 42% would be the increase in what you would have. I'm not sure where I'm missing the point with respect to that, but it's a huge increase that you're seeing with respect to that. One of the biggest questions I would have, and I really don't understand this concept at all, the petroleum industry would be paying the bulk of what this is, obviously, with these districts that are coming in. And I'd love to talk to them. I mean, it's something where I'd like to hear from them where they see the benefit in doing this, because the cash outlay that they're going to have in an additional tax levy is going to be extremely significant for them.
Sure.
So, you know, I'm sure you've had those conversations. This is something that we really started looking at. I got the information Thursday. So I'm trying to learn about this and put together the numbers and come up with a concept. I like the concept itself. I just think there are a lot of things that need to be put together before I could be supportive.
Okay.
of it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to provide whatever information that you're after. No problem there.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Additional comments or questions, commissioners? Yeah, I mean, I know you're not looking for an answer today, so to speak. It sounds like there's obviously more questions involved there, and we would want input from the mines. And I mean, I assume these cities and communities you've been speaking with are on board, but I'm not sure how the public feels about that. And obviously their first question is going to be cost, which I think has been covered. So I'm not sure I would be comfortable with just simply passing a resolution without a public vote. So the way about this goes, you know, I guess is probably important, whether that's through a petition or, you know, an expansion or a separate district and then a consolidation. I mean, there's a few different options within that statute that kind of spells out different pathways, and they have different requirements within those. And so, you know, vetting some of that out, I think would be beneficial, and certainly getting the public input. I mean, it was attempted once and it failed. And so obviously we want to be, you know, forthcoming with another approach and make sure that we have it hammered out and everyone's understanding before it gets to that point. So
yeah, we'll get some public input. That'll be good. Sure.
I have
comments?
one more.
Commissioner Tillman?
Like, would it be advantageous for Eden Valley to join with the whole counties?
It was discussed briefly. I discussed it with DEQ because they're currently working with them on a closure and stuff. So it could be advantageous for them. We didn't approach them about anything because they just pay monthly to us to dispose of their trash, and they had a current solid waste district. So we didn't.
Well, right now residents, we don't pay a trash fee because they collect taxes. So
right. Yeah, you just pay into that solid waste district up there and then they pay us to dispose of their trash. But yeah, I mean, if they saw it advantageous and yeah, I mean, it's easy to absorb a solid waste district for the guidelines too.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Richards?
I was just thinking the different options we have just to keep the conversation going. I mean, the options we have is to just by resolution expand the boundaries of the district to include the areas they're proposing. The drawbacks there are we now have an area that will be taxed without having voted for a tax and will also not be represented on the current board, though we make those appointments, so we could solve that really easily. I just feel like before we tax people in a new area, I think they need the opportunity to vote on whether or not that tax makes sense for them. So I think we need to pursue, as we have these discussions, we need to pursue a path where we can make a proposal, but the voters have to have the final decision.
Any other feedback? Well, we appreciate the presentation and putting that
Thanks for the
together and
opportunity.
reaching out ahead of time. And it sounds like we got a little bit of homework to do, but
Okay.
anything we can help with in that process, reach out.
All right, I'll definitely be in touch. Yeah.
Very good.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
Dan.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. That's going to take us to our last item under tab C, which is the discussion for the consideration of forming a district to provide emergency medical services. It seemed kind of fitting today with the lighter agenda that this discussion falls suit with a similar state statute requirement in regards to emergency medical services. Just to be clear, the county is currently contracted with Castle Rock Hospital District to provide ambulance services, and that contract doesn't end until June 30th of 2027. So the idea of the discussion is simply to provide options as we plan for the future, whether that's creating a district or not. I think it's important to be proactive and have those conversations and not be last minute and, kind of under the radar, so to speak, for having to act quickly. We have had interest from both of our neighboring cities in Rock Springs and Green River, encouraging the idea of a district. We've also heard from Castle Rock as well. I think everyone's interested to see what that would look like. Whether or not that, like I said, is the valuable or the viable option, I guess, is to be determined. But the current contract we have has a cap of $1.8 million. And the last 3 years, we've budgeted 1.8, 1.6, and 1.55. So it's trending favorably. Seems to be working well, and hear from them on a regular basis, about a quarterly basis. But I think obviously the fear is what that looks like once that contract expires and whether the cities will be asked to participate in that payment and kind of the future. Obviously, the ambulance service is looking to provide a ambulance barn in the city of Rock Springs or build one. And so there's lots of moving parts, and we're just trying to be open and transparent with providing the public some of the different conversation and potential options that the future may bring with that. So I felt like because of some of these different paths with improvement districts follow similar to the presentation we just heard, it'd be a good opportunity to have those discussions. Invited City of Green River, City of Rock Springs, and Castle Rock here to participate if they so wish. And I'll leave it at that. So I guess I would open it up if anyone would like to speak to the idea of what's being presented. Sure, yeah. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for putting this on the agenda. My name is Bailey. I'm the CEO for the hospital district that's currently operating the ambulance service in Green River and Rock Springs. And to your point about the contract expiring in a couple of years, I thought it would probably be helpful to kind of discuss also who's required to provide ambulance service. I just went to a meeting last week facilitated by the Department of Health, in which a lot of different ambulance services and hospitals came and discussed challenges facing healthcare in Wyoming. Ambulance is a big topic that's being discussed because of the big beautiful bill funding that's going to be coming into our state. And so there was a lot of, creativity and talk about how to improve ambulance service across the state, because there's a lot of services that are struggling financially. Rural presents its own challenges because we don't have the need necessarily for full-time people on our ambulances, because some services only have, say, 10 calls a week, but yet we staff to one full-time ambulance because those 10 calls are really important. Rock Springs and Green River, currently, we, like Commissioner West said, we combined ambulance services 3 years ago. And the system has gotten more efficient. We've, I think this year, actually, we're anticipating a decrease again to 1.3 million. And so, by combining the service, it has become more efficient, and we have less overhead, those kinds of things. So I feel like we're moving in the right direction compared to some other ambulance services, maybe around the state. They're still struggling with what is their model, like their baseline model. But from our perspective, we just want to be here to support, whether that be a special district or whether that be the county funds. I just wanted to say we're not alone in this. I think there's a lot of systems across the state that are trying to combine and become more efficient. We'll be the first ones to throw our hat in the ring if there is funding that comes from the big beautiful bill to try to help improve even more efficiency. I think it's a good model that we're trying to follow right now, but as far as our contract goes, it expires in 2 years, and I just appreciate your willingness to kind of have these conversations ahead of time. So like you said, it's not kind of a panic last minute conversation. And I think it's important for the community to understand that EMS is different than fire and it's different than police, because EMS is not an essential service as designated by any statute in the state of Wyoming. No one is required to fund it. The district, the county, the cities, no one is required to provide this service, which is disheartening because we all know it's necessary and it is an essential service, but it's different than fire that's required to be provided by your cities. So I think that's also why it's really important. And I think people don't necessarily understand that. And, we're just here to support in any way that we can. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I just wanted to also kind of shed light on why is this a financial challenge, because it's not necessarily required by anyone to fund it. And we appreciate that the commissioners are funding it for us currently. And without that, we'd kind of be facing the unknown of what we were looking at a few years ago about whether ambulance was going to continue to exist in our community. So we really appreciate your support, and any questions we can answer, happy to do so.
Very good. Thanks, Bailey.
Yeah.
Any questions for Bailey? Commissioner Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question. You mentioned there might be some funding in the big beautiful bill. Any idea what that is, what that looks like besides funding?
The state's application for that funding is due November 1st. There have been a number of listening sessions to try to gauge what the citizens and what hospitals feel are priorities. EMS and behavioral health have both come to the forefront as something that they would really like to, that our state really would like us to focus on. And from what the Department of Health has described, we could have an influx of about $100 million a year into the whole state system. So that's for hospitals, ambulances, potentially nursing homes, those kinds of things. We could even receive more than that because rural states are what the current administration is really trying to help. And so we could receive more than that and get, money that other more urban areas wouldn't be eligible for under this, because the whole point of the Rural Health Transformation Fund is to try to improve efficiencies. So we're hoping the application is due November 1st, and it is going to be administered through the Department of Health, not necessarily through the legislature like some of the ARPA funds a few years ago were. At least that's the governor's current direction. So yeah, we don't know necessarily yet, but they are actively working on that application. And we had representation from like 20 hospitals there last week. So I think it's going to be a really good application. And they're working very diligently on it. But yeah, it's kind of unknown as far as how much we're actually going to get.
There additional questions or comments? Thanks, Bailey. Green River, do you guys want to speak to anything? You're good. Okay. Commissioners, any feedback?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Richards?
we have very limited tools to deal with this problem. And clearly 3 years ago, negotiations between the county and the cities kind of fell apart, and the county took it upon themselves to enter into a contract and be the sole funder of the subsidy in that contract. While Castle Rock's done a fantastic job of keeping their prices down and lowering their request every year under this contract, we're still bound to set aside 1.8 million. And things could happen in a market. Prices could change in a market, and their bill to us, well anticipated to be about 1.3 next year, could be well above that and push that 1.8. So I think as we look to the end of this 5-year contract, we need to have a plan in place, as you said, on how to move forward. And with the additional pressures we're seeing on our budgets, I don't think it's sustainable to expect to be able to perpetually fund this out of our general funds. And by our, I mean the people of Sweetwater County. $1.3 million anticipated next year as a cost to continue to provide this ambulance service is pretty much equal to the $1.3 million that our revenue decreased this year as a result of reduced residential property taxes. And that's just the 25%. If we add on the additional discounts, there's another $250,000 the revenue has decreased. There's talk of reducing that revenue even further. And as a county, we have other statutory duties that we have to dedicate some of our funds to. And it's very possible that at the end of this 2 years, we're not able to continue to subsidize this contract with general fund money. So I think this is the tool that the legislature gave us to address the problem. What I'd like, we have basically 2 tools outside of general funding revenue, 3 if you count going back to the table with the different funding partners that could be involved, but they're seeing the same financial stresses that we are. They're cutting budgets everywhere because they are faced with the same cuts in revenue that we're seeing, obviously on a different scale. But I don't think it's the county commissioner's job to perpetually fund this out of general revenue. So the other 2 options is to pass a sales tax, or to pass or to create a district that could chart its own course. Sales tax, I think, is a difficult one. We couldn't probably pass 1 penny that just covers this. It would be a large discussion of how that penny gets distributed. That would put many other sales tax requests probably in jeopardy in the future. It's a tool that we use to address capital facility needs across the county. And if we put an additional penny tax for general purpose provisions like this, we would probably lose that tool in the future. We as a commission have the authority to create a district to address EMS needs. But as we talked about on the solid waste district expansion, whether or not that district had the power to tax would come from the people directly. So this isn't something we do in a vacuum. We don't instill a tax or levy a tax on the people to accomplish this. that would be up to the people to decide if this is a service that they think is worthy of their tax money. So my position is and not saying we do this today. I think we need to have broader discussions of what it really means. But my position is that we at some point make the decision to pass a resolution creating a countywide EMS district that could address EMS needs, and then let the people of Sweetwater County decide if that's something that they think is worthy of their tax dollars and that they want to pay for.
Commissioner Tillman?
Well, there is a third option. If the legislature thinks it shouldn't collect property taxes, it's not going to do us any good to create districts that will have no money in them. So the third option is the legislature needs to create a fund to pay for all these services that they are causing us to not be able to provide. Bottom line, roads, everything is going to be affected by property taxes. And there is no sense in creating a district that's not going to produce any money, or that's going to be threatened every year by a reduction in property tax.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Tillman, I agree with you to a point, but I choose to address our issues with the tools that we have in front of us and not what might happen. There's four mills on the table here that the voters would decide how much up to those 4 mills that they approved. Currently, 1 mill countywide would address the entire, produce enough funds to address the entire contract with Castle Rock, with a little bit left over to discuss some better services for some outlying areas. If property taxes are continued to cut by the legislature, say the funding initiative passes and the 50% comes in, the unspoken consequence is a lot of districts that are only now collecting a portion of the mills that are available to them, such as Solid Waste District is collecting 2.9. If they're continued to be cut, they're going to raise to their full 3 mills. And in this case, if 1 mill is not enough, then that district is going to have to ask for more mills to generate the cut, because 50% of 2 mills is 1. So if they got to collect the full 2 mills to get the same amount of money, that's what happens in the thing. If the legislature and the people of Wyoming choose to eliminate property taxes as a whole, then we have a lot bigger problems than how to fund just EMS service in Sweetwater County. But this is the system we have to work with us right now. So my proposal is working within this system, that this is the direction we take.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Tillman?
just one more thing. Farson has 6 or 7 special districts. They're already in jeopardy with their ambulance, their fire, because of the 25% reduction in taxes. Property taxes. So they are going to have to ask for an increased mill levy. So in effect, the property owners are not going to see a reduction in taxes, because there's got to be another method to reach that same level of support for the services that the community wants. So maybe the legislature is doing an end run to save property taxes, but they're not. They're not saving property taxes when you lose services and have to do something else to meet that need, which is to increase the mill levy for these special districts. So there has been no savings. It's a big issue, and I hope the legislatures treat this seriously. They want services. They have got to leave us alone. Let us find a way to get them ourselves without telling us how to run our counties. The people in our counties decide on those special districts and those mill levies. But when the state comes in and says, you're going to take a cut off the top, you take away local control by doing that.
Commissioner Slaughter, did you have something?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. While I agree with most of what was so eloquently spoken by Commissioner Richards, I think the key in what he had mentioned was the fact that this is a tool that has been given to us and is an option for us. I think it's something that we need to learn more about and look into. And so I think that's where my feeling with this comes into play, is it is a tool, while we may not fully understand how it can be used or what it can use, how it can benefit us. We have the obligation to learn that and potentially use this option as one of our tools in the future.
Mr. Jones?
I guess that's my question. We're talking about options, but we haven't said what our options are. We really only have one direction in front of us. So I think that part of the equation or the conversation has to be what are our other options? Obviously, we can keep a contract with Castle Rock going forward every year and hope that the legislature doesn't take all of the money away from us so that we then can't afford it. We can go out for bid on it again, I guess. I don't know that that really does anything besides tells us how much we're going to pay the lowest bidder, which doesn't accomplish anything. So I'm not a big fan of this direction. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good. It may be the only solution that we have that works, and sometimes it's a bitter pill. Maybe that's how I'll end up looking at it, but I just sure would like to see if there weren't some other options out there. And I haven't come up with them. I spent many nights thinking about this. My dog needed out at 2:00 this morning, which means I don't get to go back to sleep. So I had some time. Still didn't come up with a solution, but for me, this is one of the last resorts, I guess. Maybe the direction, but it's not my first pick.
I can expand on that, but Commissioner Richards, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I just wanted to say, what I really would like to hear is from all the stakeholders in the community that's going to be affected by this. I'd like to hear City of Rock Springs weigh in on this. I'd like to hear the City of Green River weigh on this. I'd like to hear industry weigh on this, because industry is going to pick up a disproportionate part of the tab. This isn't a decision that should be made by us. Of course, we're the ones that get to write the resolution to expand and create a district. But it's, in the end, it's the voters that need to decide whether they want to pass that tax. But in between those two things, we need to have really good, thorough discussions with everybody involved. And it can't be the discussions that were happening 4 and 5 years ago that were accomplishing nothing. I don't know if that means a smaller task force with smaller representation from each of those entities. But having all of the governments from all of the stakeholders all in a room at the same time didn't accomplish anything other than Sweetwater County just picking up the whole subsidy. And like I said, I don't think that's sustainable. So we need to figure out how to host and foster those discussions.
Yeah, and I think that's the purpose of today, is to start that discussion. Obviously, if we went this route, we're coming up on an election year, and there's certain timelines that are involved with pursuing a district. There's a minimum of a 60-day notice to the county assessor's office, who then works together with the Department of Revenue. Obviously that's a quick 2-month process, and there's additional timelines within that. And so if, a ballot initiative is what we all feel is best, then we need to, vet that out ahead of time in preparation for next year's election. If it's not, then that's okay too. But obviously there's lots of questions to be asked, operations, maintenance, the boundaries. There's different avenues within the statute for the amount of mills that can be assessed. One avenue is up to 2, another is up to 4. There's quarterly reporting from the board that is, I guess, established or created should a district be established. And what does that look like as far as representation? And then obviously, the resolution. I think government works best if there's options, and there's options to choose from that ultimately end where they should, which is with the people. In regards to your option, I think this is obviously one. I think Commissioner Richards spoke to it earlier. Another is just to continue with our contract. A third is a potential joint powers agreement, but each of those bring me similar pause, I'll be honest. I mean, some work well and some don't. But we're all faced with, the same financial constraints that we've been dealing with. Pretty satisfied with the way it's worked. I didn't agree with the way it was established. Obviously, we campaigned pretty hard on that a short 3 years ago, but I like the idea of options and being able to see what we think may work. And ultimately, the public's paying it one way or the other, whether it's, a tax district or through the general fund here or through joint powers opportunity. It is a little bit unique that the legislature creates this tool back in 2023 to allow for the formation of a district, but then a short couple years later turns around and cuts property tax. So I think it's got everyone scratching their head, but nonetheless, I think exploring these options to see what they look like is an important piece of future planning. And from my perspective, I think it would be advantageous to have that input from the cities and Castle Rock, and whether that's, letters of support or whatever the case is. And perhaps, as much as I hate the word task force for a biased past experience, establish some form of a task force to go over what it would look like, what it would raise, what it would cost, et cetera, before we consider whether or not establishing a resolution to move forward would be viable or not. That's kind of my take on it, but. Commissioner Jones?
Mr. Chairman, I agree. I think that's probably the only way to go about it. I was in on some of those meetings a few years ago. I was a hospital board president, but we weren't invited to all of them, so I didn't get to participate in all. But turned out that we now have such a hodgepodge of things. We have ambulances in Rock Springs. Castle Rock has ambulances. I mean, it's definitely going to take everybody to be at the table and have some conversations, and I hope that those can be a lot more productive in the future, but I don't see a way to do it without a task force. Forgive me for saying that.
I just might add one other source that I pursued when I went to NACO 3 years ago. The interstate travels through our county, and most of those calls are along the interstate, or a lot of them are. Of course, they just laughed at me. They're not going to pay for ambulance services, but really, you think about it, the Department of Transportation should be helping with that if an interstate goes through a county.
Any other discussion? No one else? Okay, well, I'll follow up with the cities. Obviously, I liaise with both mayors once a month and kind of get their appetite. Last I knew, they were interested in having that conversation and seeing what that might look like. So like you said, I don't know that it's the answer. I'm not sure I'm convinced there either, but once again, I think exploring all options is beneficial ahead of time rather than the last minute approach. So just wanted to get everything out on the table and discuss it. We'll continue to march forward with Castle Rock Ambulance Service, and happy with that relationship that we have. And like I said, there's no panic at this point because everything's working well. So this is just an open conversation that seemed fitting to follow up with after this morning's presentation. So thank you all for being here, and I guess we'll keep marching forward and figure out what the best path forward is. So with that, that's going to conclude our regular business before us this morning, commissioners. We do have 2 items under executive session that need to be discussed. One for a potential litigation issue and another for real estate. I'm not sure if we'll be taking action upon coming out. We are going to move across the hall into the Castle Rock room for the executive session. And with that, I'd entertain a motion to enter into executive for the purpose of litigation and real estate.
Mr. Chairman, I would make that motion.
Commissioner, got a motion by Commissioner Toman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. We're now in executive.
Actually had a group of people.
Entertain a motion to come out of executive session and reconvene the meeting. Motion by Commissioner Slaughter. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Richards. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. After coming out of executive session, there is no need to take action. I was going to say this morning, but we're officially in afternoon now. So with that, there's no further business to come before this board, and this meeting stands adjourned.